This is going to be the perfect video to get you out of your lazy era and going into the best, most prosperous, most successful decade of your life. Yes, the whole decade. Sky's the limit. You're going to take off. You are about to have your biggest breakthrough. You are about to succeed more than you've ever succeeded. You're about to look better than you ever looked. You're about to make more money than you ever made. You are right there, right at the door of your breakthrough, and you just got to walk through it. I'm going to show you how. Your lazy era ends right here, right now. Let's go. If this is your first time here, my name is Victoria. I'm a certified trauma-informed somatic practitioner, holistic women's health and fitness coach, and I also have experience in the mental health field as a registered behavioral therapist and a certified recovery specialist. I also have 15 years experience coaching. So if you're wondering why you should listen to me, there you go. First, I want to say that no one's ever lazy. You're not lazy. No one's ever lazy. You're either scared, confused, sad, or defeated. This is where laziness stems from. Really, it's things that are stopping you and blocking you from taking steps forward. Okay, so we're going to tackle each one of these things here, and you're going to be able to fix every single one of these issues by the time we're done with this, okay? Let's go into our very first roadblock that we're going to bulldoze right over, okay? We're going to bulldoze over all of these blocks. And the very first one, and often the biggest one, is fear of failure, okay? This is a very common limiting belief that holds a lot of people back from doing things. So if you've been wanting to start something or pursue something, you've been wanting to start a business, or you've paused and stopped pursuing your goals or your career or your business, you haven't gone all in yet, or you haven't even started yet. Fear of failure is often the first and the biggest roadblock that holds us back. Okay, so let's talk about how we overcome this fear of failure. You have to understand that this is your brain's way of protecting you. You've associated fear with danger. It's something that's going to put you in danger, and your brain is going to do, whatever it can to protect you from that feeling and from that danger. So anything that is out of the norm or outside of your comfort zone, undiscovered territory yet in your life, your brain is going to try to hold you back and say, hold on, we don't know what's over there. We don't know what kind of danger lies over there. We gotta just stay right here. And that is your brain trying to protect you from that danger, from that potential failure. So we have to start reframing how we look at failure. You've probably been taught or thought your whole life that failure is bad, that failure is something that should be avoided, that failure is something that can destroy you or hurt you or embarrass you. Whatever the case may be, it's often associated with very, very, very negative things and negative outcomes. You have to reframe the way you look at failure. First and foremost, there's a really famous quote about failure, and it's that failure is an inevitable part of success. You cannot succeed without failing. So you have to start understanding that failure is a part of the process to gain success. And when you start to think of failure as not something that should be feared or avoided, but something you should run towards because it's part of a process that's going to get you what you want, then you can start to knock down that wall and destroying that fear. One way that you can really do this and to train your brain to be okay with the thought of failure is looking at other people's stories, success stories. Some of the most successful people, have their stories out there, and you can read their stories or listen to their stories and see how much they have failed. And they talk about their failures openly. So looking at their stories and reading their stories and seeing how many times these people have failed before they succeeded will really help you to understand that failure is a part, that failure is normal, and that failure is inevitable. You cannot avoid failure. You have to walk through failure to get to success. So you should really start to get into your mind that you need to embrace failure. One thing that I started doing is I start to celebrate my failures. So if I have like a post that flops, or I have a launch that doesn't go well, doesn't get, the results that I thought it was going to get, then I celebrate that. I look at that and I say, good job. You did it. You failed. Because I know that I just took a step forward, right? You take your failure, or you take things that didn't go the way you thought they were going to go, and you learn from them. You analyze what you could have done differently, and the things that you can do going forward to fix that, right? You pivot and you course correct, you learn. This is exactly how you succeed. You take the mistakes that you made and you learn from them, you course correct, and then you keep going forward. The only time you really fail is if you keep doing the same thing and keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. But anything that you have learned from and now you can take a step forward is not a failure. Well, it is, but that's how you got to look at failures. It's just a learning opportunity. So one thing you can start doing is start congratulating yourself on your failures. Start celebrating yourself on your failures. You have a launch and it doesn't go well, celebrate. Buy yourself a glass of champagne. Treat yourself to a nice dinner. Give yourself a nice self-care day. Do something that not only self-soothe, but celebrate your attempt at whatever it is you were trying, because you took the leap, you took a step forward, and that alone deserves recognition and celebrating. So when you start looking at your failures as a chance to learn and to celebrate you taking a step forward, the fear of failure starts to dissipate and it can no longer dig its claws into you and hold you back. Start to get yourself to associate failure with a part of the process. And once you do that, failure cannot hold you back anymore. Let's talk about the next roadblock, which is confusion, right? You probably haven't took a step forward or moved forward with something because you don't know what to do. You're lost. This is called analysis paralysis. This is when we get stuck because we don't know what decision to make. We don't know what big decisions to make or small decisions to make. We get stuck at a decision and we don't know which way to go, and it paralyzes us. We just freeze because we're so afraid. This goes back to the first roadblock, which is fear of failure. We're afraid of making the wrong decision. See, by fixing your fear of failure, you can also fix all of these other limiting beliefs as well. So being afraid to make the wrong decision is so normal, especially in today's society where there's so many possible decisions and there's so many options. We just get caught up in all the different possibilities, all the different choices. It's like when you don't know what to eat because there's so many options of what to eat. So you just sit there stuck, not knowing what to eat. Next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock and you still haven't eaten. That's analysis paralysis. So we do the same thing with our business, our careers, or any other decisions. If you're trying to get in shape, whatever big goal that you have, we get stuck because we don't know what to do. We don't know which way to turn. There's a fork in the road. We don't know which way to go. So this is what analysis paralysis looks like, and it keeps a lot of people stuck. It's kept me stuck for a long time because I noticed myself, like anytime I had to make a decision, even if it was just the smallest of decisions, that's when I would stop. That's when I would get distracted. That's when I would start, scrolling or looking something up, doing, totally, getting off course because I wanted to avoid making that decision. Once I got really good at recognizing that I was doing that and then pushing through it, that is when I started to see much greater results, started to get more sales, started to make more money consistently and increase my revenue. That is when I started to really start succeeding, is when I conquered this analysis paralysis. So let's get into how you can do that for yourself. First thing you need to do is learn how to separate big decisions from small decisions. You need to know which decisions are like major decisions, like life-changing decisions, and which decisions are very small, won't have that big of an effect on your life. I mean, you can argue, every decision affects your life or has a big impact on your life. Yes, your small decisions over time build up and affect your life, but you need to know which decisions are major. Like you need to make the decision right here, right now. And this one decision could drastically change things rapidly, and which small decisions aren't that big of a deal. Like you can always make another decision later to course correct. It's not going to be something that you can't go back and fix. Like a major decision is something you can't go back and fix easily. Like you can go back and fix it, but it's going to be much more difficult. Whereas small decisions is you can easily switch it up if you need to. Learn how to just separate the two, your major decisions and your small decisions. Once you learn how to separate these two things, then you know how to go about each one. So for your big major decisions, you should go through a really significant process, right? Because it's a big decision. This is something you just like flip a coin on or just say, F it, pick one or the other. You're not going to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, you're going to go through a in-depth process to make this decision. Okay, so now let's talk about what to do with these small decisions, right? So we know how to make a big decision, right? That's actually quite easy. Now let's talk about small decisions, right? guess what? It's even easier, okay? When it comes to small decisions, you just start forcing yourself to make these decisions. Things like, what are you gonna wear to a certain event? Or what are you gonna have for breakfast? Or which email marketing platform do you wanna use for your business? Like, these are much smaller decisions. Like, it might be maybe a little medium size, some of them, but they're much smaller decisions. These are decisions you just wanna make. You don't want to sit on these decisions. You want to be like, oh, should I use Flowdesk or should I use MailChimp? By the way, never use MailChimp, okay? Should I use MailerLite or should I use ConvertKit? Like, you don't want to be sitting on decisions like these. This should take less than 2 hours to decide. Do a little bit of research. If you really, really are meticulous, then maybe you can try out the free trial I'll give you a day for something like that, right? But you don't want to spend more than a day making these small decisions. These are decisions you got to make quick. You got to make things go. You got to get things moving. So sitting on decisions is only holding you back. You got to learn how to just make these small decisions and live with the consequences. Because guess what? The consequences will never be that big. You can always make a different decision the next time. The next event, you can wear something different. You can pick a different kind of pants. You got to get good at making these decisions, and then this will train your brain to make decisions quickly and help you learn how to pivot after you make a decision you're not so happy with the results of, right? And that's really what the most successful people are good at. They're really good at making fast decisions and pivoting when they need to. So start off with small things like what you're gonna eat for breakfast, what you're gonna eat for dinner, things like that. What shoes you're gonna wear. Like, don't sit and harp on things like that. Like, sometimes I'll sit at my closet and I'll stare like, which workout pants do I want to wear today? Like, you can't do that. Like, I had to stop myself from doing stuff like that. Now it's like, whatever it is, pick it. Like, if I'm unhappy with my outfit, I deal with it. You know what I mean? So you gotta learn how to just be rapid, quick with your decision. The better you get at this, the more successful you'll be. I promise you that. Another big thing that surrounds this analysis paralysis is perfectionism. You have to let go of perfectionism. You have to be okay with making messy action. And like I said, the most successful people are really good at taking quick, messy action. They're okay with messy action because they know that when they take that messy action, they have lots of information and input so that they can pivot and they can adjust and they can make better decisions moving forward. Like, this is how you learn. This is how you climb. This is how you succeed. You have to learn how to take that information from those decisions and then do it again and make it better and do it again and make it better. Each launch you do, you get better and better at launching, but you'll never get better at launching if you never launch because you want the perfect launch. There is no such thing as the perfect launch. Being stuck in perfectionism is definitely something you need to let go of. So be okay with messy action and get yourself used to that. It's like a muscle. You got to train it. The only way to train it is to do it. So just keep doing it and keep practicing with those little small decisions, and then you'll get better at it with those more medium-sized decisions, okay? Okay, so let's go into our next roadblock, which is being defeated. Remember I said you're not lazy, you're either sad, confused, defeated, or scared. So defeated is a big one. This often happens from trauma. Trauma is associated with past failures or past attempts, or just trauma from life experiences in general. It could have nothing to do with business. It could just be, your personal life or the way you grew up, your childhood. A lot of things stem from trauma that we've experienced that make us feel defeated and almost make us feel like, what's the point of trying? I can speak to this on a personal level like you wouldn't believe. I've experienced feeling defeated and feeling, what's the point of even living? That's how defeated I've been. And I'm sure plenty of you can relate to that. This is when you really have to discover what limiting beliefs or subconscious beliefs were created from those traumas you experienced. I love this quote. Limiting beliefs are an agreement that you made with yourself and your body from a trauma. So, for example, if someone was scared to death by a train, riding a train, like let's say that the train had an accident and they almost died. That was a very traumatic experience. That person would probably come to the agreement within themselves and their body that trains are dangerous and that they should stay away from trains and they should never get on a train. That is the belief that has been ingrained in them from the trauma, is that trains are dangerous and you should never get on a train. If you get on a train, you're going to die. That's the belief. So we have to discover what beliefs have we created within ourselves and how that is causing us to feel defeated and unmotivated to take action. So I'll use myself for an example as well. I lost my brother in 2016, and it was a very traumatic loss. And it was in a part of my life where I was just starting my business, my career. I was in mourning for so long, and it affected me so deeply that I ended up developing this belief that, my life was no longer any good, that I couldn't continue, that I couldn't move forward, that I couldn't do anything worthwhile because my life was just like it was a wash, like it was a wrap. This terrible thing happened to you, like your life is no good anymore. That was the limiting belief that I had from that trauma. And so I had to rewrite that. And it took me a long time to even discover that that was like the root of so many of my issues, and why I would give up on things so easily, and why I wasn't being consistent with things, and why I would try something and then just like throw in the towel. And it wasn't until I realized that I had this belief holding me back and pulling me back and making me feel defeated anytime something, went wrong. Because anytime something went wrong or didn't go the way that I thought it would, I would go, yeah, this is because, your life is no good anymore. You're not able to move forward. This thing happened to you and now, you're done. And I didn't even realize I was telling myself those stories. So you have to realize, what are you telling yourself? Really look at yourself from a third person view and listen to the things that you're saying to yourself and how you're speaking to yourself and how you're looking at yourself in your life, because you may not even realize that you're telling yourself these stories. They're not real, right? My life is not a wash. My life is not done. I'm not incapable of moving forward or doing anything. And I've been able to prove that to myself. And I've been able to achieve happiness, and I've been able to achieve a life that I love. If I would have believed those lies I was telling myself, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But it took me, one, discovering them and coming to the realization that that's what the belief was, and then rewriting that belief, and then rewiring my brain and putting this new belief into my subconscious mind. Because once I put my new belief in my subconscious mind that my life is worthwhile, I am worthy of financial success and happiness and joy and peace and a happy family, and I am worthy of a life that I love. Once I put this new belief into my subconscious, that is when things started to unfold in a beautiful way, and along with a lot of other things as well, of course, right? But it starts with a subconscious belief. What do you believe about yourself in your life that is holding you back? Because we know that our subconscious runs the show. Anything you see in your current reality is based off whatever's going on a subconscious level. So you need to ask yourself, what is it that you're believing or thinking that is stopping you from moving forward? I do have a practice where I discover limiting beliefs, because sometimes the challenge could be in discovering the belief. It's not even the rewriting, the rewiring of the brain is actually the easy part for me, because I have those somatic tools to do so, right? Sometimes the most difficult part is discovering the belief, right? Because you may not even know what your subconscious beliefs that are limiting you are. So I do have an outline for how I discover limiting beliefs and how I help my clients discover limiting beliefs. And then we have a way to prove that belief wrong and then to rewrite it, right? And when you want to disprove a limiting belief, you basically just want to put it on trial. You want to ask yourself, objectively, right? Only using fact alone, right? Not opinions or, things that you think, right? It's hardcore concrete facts. How is that true? Why is this true? Why is this not true, right? What makes this a lie? And what is the cost of this belief? What is it costing me? So when we do this, we're able to disintegrate these subconscious beliefs, and we can easily rewrite new beliefs to replace them with, and then we can start ingraining them into our subconscious mind and into our bodies and start truly to believe our new subconscious beliefs. When you do this can solve 99.9% of all your problems, and you will see yourself skyrocket. You will start to see a new life just materialize around you, right? This is just how universal laws work. That, like I said, the subconscious mind is running the show. So whatever you put into it, you will start to see in your outside exterior world. So now let's talk about sad. And this kind of connects to the last roadblock, right? I want to talk about this too, because there's a difference between being sad and being depressed, right? Because sadness is a normal human emotion that we all feel. There are things that just make us sad sometimes, and sometimes you just feel sad, and it's totally normal to feel sad. But you need to know the difference between you being sad and you being depressed. And I think that's kind of a lost art in today's world. I think a lot of people are sad and then they're telling themselves that they're depressed, and they're actually making themselves more depressed. Not to diminish anyone's feelings, because there are a lot of people who are struggling with depression. Depression is running rampant. I'm not saying it's not a thing. Trust me, I know. But I think one thing I had to learn for myself is knowing, like, am I depressed or am I sad right now, right? Because I've overcome my depression, right? I used to be on antidepressants and anxiety medication. I was able to get off of that medication using somatics and breath work and prayer. Thank you, Jesus, praise be to God. And I was able to overcome, and I have a happy life. Majority of the time, I feel good, I feel happy, but I still feel sad. There's still times where I feel sad. Plenty of times I still feel sad. That doesn't mean I'm depressed and need to get back on medication, but I'm able to work through those moments where I feel sad. And I think that's an important tool to have, especially when you have big goals, because you can't get so engulfed and self-indulgent in negative emotions, because that is a thing. We do like to self-indulge sometimes in our negative emotions. And when we do that, we bring our energy down. We lower our vibration. We need to keep our vibration high so that we can make our decisions and show up as this higher self, as this high vibrational self, as our full potential, our tapped in full potential. And you can't tap into your full potential if you are in a low vibrational mode. That doesn't mean you're never allowed to feel sad. You feel the sadness. You allow yourself to feel the sadness. But then you pick yourself up and you start to do things to help make you feel better. This is why it's really, really, really important to know what your triggers are. And this also goes back to your fear of failure and anxiety that you may feel around making decisions. Some people have really bad anxiety when it comes to making decisions and struggle with decision making, especially people who deal with OCD. And it's probably something I should have mentioned earlier, but it encompasses this as well. You need to know what your triggers are so that you can work through those triggers. So knowing your triggers is a really, really, really powerful tool. And not just to have like a mental note of like, oh, I think I get triggered when people, tell me no, or, I feel like I get triggered when people ask me, XYZ question. Like, you need to know exactly what your triggers are, because they could be thoughts, they could be places, they could be certain things or smells or images. Like, anything could be a trigger. It could be people. You need to know exactly who and what your triggers are so that you can navigate and try to avoid them as much as possible, though it's not possible to avoid all triggers. So you need to know how to counteract, basically how to bounce back from being triggered, right? The way that you bounce back from being triggered is preemptively knowing what's going to trigger you. If you don't know that a certain phrase somebody says is going to trigger you, then when it happens, you could start spiraling and going out of control and start, thinking and catastrophizing and getting caught up in this bad mood or like ending up in like a really bad negative emotion, where if you knew that's what your trigger was, you could stop yourself and say, okay, I've just been triggered. I'm triggered because XYZ, and now we need to fix it. Now we need to bounce back. So one thing I like to do when I've been triggered is expose myself to my glimmers, right? So what is a glimmer? A glimmer is the opposite of a trigger, right? So glimmers are things that make you feel happy, that bring you joy automatically. Good. Like, for example, my biggest glimmers are hearing my daughter laugh, hearing my daughter sing, and hearing birds chirping. Those are my 3 big glimmers. Like, when I hear those things, automatically I am happy. Like, I cannot not be happy hearing my daughter laugh. I cannot not be happy hearing birds chirp and sing. They are just things that lift me up no matter what. So you need to know what your glimmers are, and you need to know what your triggers are. And when you know these things, you are in control of how you feel. You become in control of your emotions, because you can easily stop yourself from spiraling, and you can easily tap into a different emotion, into a different state of being. I actually have a worksheet that I will link below completely for free for you to discover your triggers and to discover your glimmers, so that you have an easier time with this, because having a list of these things makes your life a lot easier. And it's something I always make my clients do. It's one of the very first things I make my clients do, because it is really difficult to move forward with anything if you do not know these things about yourself, right? And people overlook it and they think it's no big deal. They think they could just make a mental note, but what they don't realize is they're not getting the full picture. And it's kind of like when you half-ass do something. Like, good luck moving forward with the next step if you half-ass the first step, right? So same thing here. Like, know exactly what these things are so that you can move forward and know how to operate accordingly. So now that we know the things that have been keeping you in your lazy era, and we know what the issues are, and we know how to fix them, now we can go about crushing it, moving forward, heading towards our breakthrough, right? So the first thing you want to do is write out your goals. What are your goals, right? You want to know what your big goals are. You want to know what your smaller, like more short-term goals are. That way you have your big long-term goals that you can look forward to, right? You have the big picture that is going to keep you moving forward. And then you have your small term or short-term goals that are going to, be things that you can accomplish right away and be like your stepping stones so that you can keep moving forward, right? And you need to know what both are. So writing out your long-term goals and your short-term goals is the first step. Then you want to set times, right? For your long-term goals, like in the next 5 years, I want to have this many properties, or I want to have, this house, and I want to be married, and I want to have this many kids, have your long-term goals, set like a timeline, give yourself a good timeline so that you give yourself plenty of time to achieve it and you're not like rushing, and then for your short-term goals, give yourself deadlines, right? So you want to give yourself long, nice time frames for long-term goals so that you're not rushing and you're not like having anxiety around those goals. And then give yourself deadlines for short-term goals so that you're moving your ass. You know what I mean? Like, you're not sitting on it and like, oh, I'll launch my business, next month. Or I don't feel ready. I'll launch my business in the next 3 months. No, give yourself a deadline. Like, we are launching in 25 days. We are launching in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, give yourself deadlines. I mean, you want to make realistic deadlines if you're starting from scratch, you know where you're at and how much time you need. You know what I mean? Don't give yourself too much time, but make sure you give yourself enough time, but not too much time. Then you want to brain dump everything you need, everything that you're going to have to do, brain dump it all. Just let it all out, all the things that are going on in your mind, whatever things you have, just brain dump it all. Then you want to organize everything that you brain dump into categories of prioritization. Basically what's most important to get done, right? What needs to get done and what doesn't need to get done right away. You want to do the same thing for habits that you have right now, habits that you need to get rid of, and habits that you want to start forming. So I can do a whole video on this process if you would like that. Let me know in the comments below. But you want to do this for your goals, for your objectives, for the things you need to do, and for your habits that you need to start implementing, and habits that need to go away too. If you have a habit of binging Netflix for 5 hours a day, then that's a habit that's got to get kicked, right? So you need to know the things that are holding you back, the habits that are holding you back, habits that you need to start implementing so you can move forward. And then from there, you just start planning and organizing. Get yourself organized, start planning out your short-term goals, and before you know it, you'll be hitting those long-term goals. So for organizing and planning, I like to utilize both digital planners, things like Notion, and then physical planners, things like my actual physical planner, which I absolutely love, I'm obsessed with. I like to use both depending on what we're using. And like I said, if you want more info on how I organize and plan and things like that, let me know in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to talk about it because I do love that stuff. So I hope that was very helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, let me know below. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that this was insightful. Go get them. Like I said, you are on the verge of a breakthrough. Just take that step forward, take that leap, trust yourself, trust God, trust the process, and I know everything's gonna work out for you. All right, so go get them and let me know how things work. See you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, by the way. Okay.